The Hero in the Night, the dog that detected a fire and saved a family. Part 1. A quiet night turns to disaster. The night was quiet, with only the occasional whisper of the wind through the trees. In a small suburban neighborhood, houses stood still under the soft glow of streetlights. It was a peaceful, ordinary evening, the kind where nothing seemed out of place. Inside one of those homes, the Miller family slept soundly, unaware that disaster was quietly creeping toward them. But one member of the household was still awake. Cooper, a 3-year-old Labrador retriever, lay curled in his dog bed near the back door. His ears twitched as he listened to the subtle sounds of the night: crickets chirping, tree branches swaying, the faint hum of distant traffic. Then, suddenly, something changed. A sharp, acrid scent filled the air. Cooper's nose twitched. He lifted his head, sniffing the air again. The smell was faint but unmistakable. Smoke? The fur along his back bristled. He rose to his feet, stepping forward, sniffing again. Something was wrong, and he had to warn his family before it was too late. An ordinary family, an extraordinary dog. The Millers had never imagined they would need saving. They were an average American family, Tom and Lisa Miller, a hardworking couple in their mid-40s, and their 2 kids, Jake, 12, and Emily, 8. They had moved to the quiet neighborhood just 2 years ago, looking for a peaceful place to raise their children. Cooper had been a Christmas gift for the kids, a fluffy, playful puppy with big brown eyes and an endless supply of energy. Over the years, he had become more than just a pet. He was family. Tom loved to take him on early morning runs. Lisa enjoyed teaching him new tricks. Jake and Emily played fetch with him in the backyard every afternoon. He was always there, loyal, loving, protective. But no one knew just how protective Cooper truly was. Not yet. The first signs of danger. The house was dark, except for the soft glow of a nightlight in the hallway. Everyone was asleep, but Cooper was not. The smell of smoke was getting stronger. His ears perked as he moved toward the kitchen. His sharp nose led him to the source, a thin wisp of smoke curling out from beneath the basement door. Cooper whined softly, stepping closer. The scent burned his nostrils. Something was burning below. His instinct screamed at him. Wake them up. Get them out. Now. He turned sharply and sprinted toward the bedrooms, his nails clicking urgently against the hardwood floor. Reaching the parents' room first, he jumped up against the bed, pressing his paws against the mattress. Cooper, go lay down. Tom mumbled sleepily, half awake. But Cooper didn't stop. He barked, loud and sharp. Not the playful bark he used when he wanted to go outside, but a frantic, urgent warning. Cooper, what's wrong? Lisa's voice was groggy, confused. Then, before she could sit up, the smoke alarm went off. Beep, beep, beep. The piercing sound filled the house. Lisa and Tom bolted upright. What the? Tom started, but then he smelled it. Smoke. Thick, suffocating, pouring up from the basement. In an instant, Tom's years of fire safety training kicked in. Lisa, get the kids. Now. A race against time. The Millers had never moved so fast. Lisa ran to the kids' rooms, yanking them out of bed. Emily started to cry, confused and scared. Jake stumbled after his mom, coughing as the smoke thickened in the air. Tom grabbed the nearest blanket, wetting it under the sink before pressing it over his mouth and nose. The fire was spreading. Flames flickered at the basement door, glowing through the cracks like an eerie warning. Then, the explosion. A muffled boom from below sent a violent tremor through the house. The force knocked a picture frame off the wall. The flames, no longer contained, burst through the basement door, racing toward them. No more time. Outside. Go, go, go. Tom shouted. Lisa grabbed Emily. Jake ran ahead, but Cooper was already leading the way. He darted to the front door, barking wildly. Come on. This way. Tom fumbled with the doorknob. It was burning hot. Back door, he yelled. Cooper pivoted immediately, rushing toward the kitchen's sliding door. Jake threw it open, and they ran. The moment of escape. They made it just in time. As soon as they stumbled onto the lawn, gasping for air, The flames behind them roared, engulfing the kitchen in a burst of fire and smoke. Neighbors were already coming outside, awakened by the smoke alarm's blaring sound. Someone was calling 911. Lisa clutched Emily tightly, her hands shaking. Tom, doubled over, coughed violently, trying to catch his breath. Jake's face was pale, his wide eyes locked onto the burning house. And Cooper? He was still watching the door, his body low, ears pinned back, his entire being focused on making sure everyone was out. Lisa realized she was still clutching his collar, holding onto him like he was the only thing grounding her to reality. Tears filled her eyes as she looked at him. "You knew," she whispered. Cooper turned to her, his brown eyes filled with understanding. And then, finally, he wagged his tail. Sirens in the night. Within minutes, the first fire truck arrived. Flames engulfed the first floor, black smoke billowing into the night sky. Firefighters rushed in, hoses spraying water. Commands shouted over the roaring inferno. A paramedic approached the Millers, checking them for injuries. "We're okay," Tom assured him. "Thanks to him." He gestured toward Cooper, who was sitting attentively beside them. "His job done." The paramedic smiled, crouching down to pet him. "You've got a hero on your hands," he said. Lisa let out a soft laugh, still shaky but overwhelmed with emotion. "Yeah," she whispered. "We do." What comes next? The Millers had lost their home, but they were alive. Because one dog didn't ignore the signs. Because one dog knew what to do when every second counted. And as they stood together on the sidewalk, watching the firefighters battle the flames, one thing was clear. Cooper wasn't just a pet. He was their guardian, their hero, and he had saved them all. Part 2. The aftermath, picking up the pieces. The fire was out, but the damage was done. The Miller family stood on the sidewalk, watching as the last flames flickered and died, leaving behind the charred remains of what had once been their home. Thick smoke still hung in the air, swirling under the red and blue glow of emergency lights. The firefighters worked tirelessly, making sure there were no lingering embers that could reignite. Lisa clutched Emily tightly, her daughter's small body trembling against her chest. Jake stood beside his father, eyes wide with shock, his hands buried in the pockets of his pajama pants. And then there was Cooper, standing at attention beside them, his golden fur covered in soot, his nose twitching as he took in the strange, acrid scents. The house was gone, but they were alive. Because of him. Fire investigators and first realizations. A fire investigator approached Tom, his expression serious. "The fire started in the basement," he explained. "Looks like faulty wiring, an electrical spark near some old insulation. If it had happened later in the night, it might have spread without anyone waking up in time." Tom swallowed hard, rubbing a hand over his face. "If Cooper hadn't woken us up," Lisa whispered, unable to finish the sentence. The reality of what almost happened hit them all at once. If Cooper hadn't smelled the smoke before the alarms went off, if he hadn't barked and refused to stop, if he hadn't led them out of the house when he did, they might not be standing here. Tom looked down at the dog who had saved their lives, his throat tightening. "We owe you everything, buddy," he murmured, kneeling down to rub Cooper's ears. Cooper, as always, wagged his tail, as if he had just done what any good dog would do. The unthinkable. What's next? The immediate question hit them hard. "Where do we go?" Lisa asked, her voice laced with exhaustion. Their home was destroyed. Everything they owned, clothes, furniture, photos, memories, was now just ash and debris. A firefighter overheard and approached. "There's a local shelter that helps families after disasters," he suggested. "They'll give you a place to stay until you can figure things out." Lisa nodded, grateful but hesitant. "What about Cooper?" Jake asked immediately. "Will they let us bring him?" The firefighter hesitated. "I'm not sure," he admitted. Silence. The Millers exchanged looks, and then Tom shook his head. "If he can't go, we don't go," he said firmly. Cooper had saved them. There was no way they were going to leave him behind now. A community steps in. Just as the weight of their situation started to sink in, help came from an unexpected place. Their neighbors, awakened by the fire, began stepping forward. A woman named Margaret, who lived 3 houses down, placed a gentle hand on Lisa's shoulder. "You'll stay with us," she said simply, "as long as you need." Lisa's eyes welled with tears. We can't ask you to do that," she whispered. "You're not asking," Margaret insisted. "And we're not taking no for an answer." Her husband, Greg, smiled down at Cooper. "Besides, we've got a big backyard, and I'm pretty sure your hero here deserves a steak dinner." Jake's face lit up for the first time that night. "Did you hear that, Coop? You're getting a steak." Cooper wagged his tail enthusiastically, completely unaware that he had just become the town's biggest hero. A hero's welcome. News of Cooper's bravery spread fast. By morning, the local paper had already picked up the story. Dog saves family from house fire. The firefighters couldn't stop talking about him. Most dogs bark at fires. But this one, he knew something was wrong before we even got the call. A reporter showed up at Margaret's house that afternoon, asking to interview the Millers. "We were asleep," Tom told them. "The alarms didn't wake us. Cooper did. If he hadn't smelled the smoke when he did, we wouldn't be here right now." The article, featuring a picture of Cooper sitting proudly beside his family, went viral. The town mayor even called, asking if they could honor Cooper with a special award at the next city event. "A medal for a dog?" Lisa laughed, shaking her head. "Why not?" Tom said, scratching behind Cooper's ears. "Heroes deserve medals." Cooper, of course, just wagged his tail, happy to be surrounded by the people he loved. The emotional aftermath. Even with all the media attention and community support, the emotional weight of the fire didn't go away overnight. Lisa had to fight back tears every time she remembered all the things they lost: family heirlooms, childhood photos, irreplaceable keepsakes. Jake had nightmares for weeks, waking up in a panic, terrified the fire was happening all over again. Emily refused to sleep without holding onto Cooper's fur, afraid that if she let go, she'd wake up to smoke and flames. And Tom? Tom couldn't shake the guilt. "I should have checked the wiring," he muttered one night, staring at the ceiling. Lisa, curled up beside him, reached over and squeezed his hand. "We can't change what happened," she whispered, "but we're here. That's what matters." Tom nodded, and he knew she was right, because no matter how much they lost that night, they still had each other. Thanks to Cooper. A new beginning. A month later, the Millers found a new home, a cozy house just a few blocks away from where their old one had been. It wasn't the same, but it was theirs. And on the very first night in their new home, before anyone went to bed, Tom knelt down beside Cooper and looked him straight in the eye. "You saved our lives, buddy," he whispered. Cooper wagged his tail. "And no matter what happens, you're always going to have a home with us." Cooper licked Tom's face, as if to say, "I know." Part 3. A town honors its hero. The new house wasn't quite home yet. The Miller family was still adjusting, learning to live without the irreplaceable things they had lost, finding new routines, and slowly moving forward. But through all the rebuilding, healing, and change, one thing remained constant: Cooper. He had been by their side through fear, loss, and uncertainty, and now he was there as they started over. And soon, the world would know just how much of a hero he truly was. Cooper's story spreads. It started with a simple article in the local newspaper, a small feature titled, "Right Arrow, Labrador Saves Family from House Fire. A True Hero with 4 Paws." People read it, shared it, and before long, the story took off. A regional news station picked it up. Then, a national morning show reached out. "We'd love to feature Cooper and your family in a segment on amazing pet rescues," a producer wrote in an email to Lisa. Lisa blinked at her screen, hardly believing it. "Cooper? On TV?" She turned to Tom, who was reading over her shoulder. "You think he's ready for stardom?" she joked. Tom grinned, scratching Cooper's ears. "As long as they let him nap between interviews, I think he'll be fine." Jake and Emily, meanwhile, were over the moon. "He's famous now," Emily squealed. "Can we get him a cape?" "Super Cooper," Jake mused. Yeah, I like it. Cooper, of course, just wagged his tail, unbothered by his newfound fame. An unexpected honor. Before the TV appearance could even happen, another surprise came their way. One afternoon, Lisa received a phone call from the mayor's office. "We want to formally recognize Cooper's bravery at the upcoming City Hall event," the mayor explained. "We've prepared a special award for him." Lisa blinked in shock. "You mean like a certificate?" "No," the mayor chuckled. "A medal. And we'd love for your family to be there when we present it." Lisa didn't know what to say. A medal? For Cooper? She turned to look at him, sprawled out on the living room floor, happily chewing on one of Emily's stuffed animals. Their goofy, lovable, forever hungry Labrador was about to be honored like a real-life hero. She smiled. "We'd love to be there." The big day at City Hall. The day of the ceremony. The town gathered in the main plaza, buzzing with excitement. People held up signs that read, "Pushpin, good boy. Cooper. Pushpin, our local hero. Pushpin, firefighter with 4 paws." The local fire department had even brought out one of their trucks, placing a giant banner across it that read, "Fire honoring Cooper, the dog who saved a family fire." Jake and Emily couldn't stop grinning as they walked with their parents toward the stage. And right beside them, wearing a brand new red bandana, was Cooper. When the mayor took the microphone, the crowd fell silent. "Tonight, we honor a special member of our community," she said. "A hero who doesn't wear a badge or a uniform, but whose actions saved an entire family." She turned toward Cooper, smiling. "Cooper, because of your bravery, the Miller family is here with us today. And for that, we thank you." A firefighter stepped forward, holding a gleaming gold medal attached to a ribbon. Lisa felt her throat tighten. The firefighter knelt down, slipping the medal over Cooper's head. "Good boy," he murmured, scratching Cooper's chin. The crowd cheered. People clapped, some even tearing up at the sight of the wagging-tailed Labrador, who had no idea why everyone was looking at him, but was happy to be there anyway. Jake leaned down and whispered in Cooper's ear, "Told you you were a superhero. More than just an award." The ceremony was just the beginning. After the event, local businesses offered to donate supplies to help the Millers rebuild. A pet store owner gifted them a lifetime supply of dog food for Cooper. And then came the biggest surprise of all. Lisa was approached by a representative from a national pet foundation, one that worked to raise awareness about how dogs can detect fires, medical conditions, and other dangers before humans do. "We'd love for Cooper to be the face of our new campaign," the representative explained. "He's the perfect example of how life-saving a dog's instincts can be." Lisa looked down at Cooper, who was sniffing the representative's bag, probably looking for snacks. "I think he'd love that," she said with a laugh. A new purpose. As the weeks passed, something unexpected happened. The Millers had lost their home. They had suffered, struggled, and been forced to start over. But now, they had a new mission. With the support of their community and Cooper's newfound recognition, they started working with fire departments and pet organizations to spread awareness. They shared their story, teaching families how to prepare for emergencies and reminding everyone that sometimes the best alarm system has 4 legs and a wagging tail. Cooper, of course, became the star of it all. He attended school visits, fire safety workshops, and pet adoption events, always wearing his medal proudly. And every time a child asked, "Did Cooper really save your family?" Jake would grin and nod. "Yeah," and he'd do it again in a heartbeat. The meaning of home. Months after the fire, on a quiet evening, the Millers sat in their new living room, finally feeling like it was home. Emily curled up beside Cooper, her tiny hands stroking his fur as she whispered, "I love you, Cooper." Lisa and Tom watched from the couch, sharing a knowing smile. Jake, sitting on the floor, held up a framed photo of Cooper wearing his medal at City Hall. "This belongs on the wall," he declared. Tom nodded. "Right next to our family picture. Because that's what Cooper was. Family. A hero. Yes. A lifesaver. Absolutely. But most of all, he was theirs. And they were his. Forever." Part 4. A Legacy of Heroism. The months after the fire had been a whirlwind. What started as a tragedy had become a story of survival, heroism, and second chances. Cooper was no longer just the Miller family's beloved dog. He had become a symbol of hope, proof that a loyal heart and a keen instinct could change everything. But even as the recognition and awards kept coming, life for the Millers was beginning to settle. And that's when everything took another unexpected turn. Cooper's impact beyond the family. It was a Saturday morning when Lisa checked her email and saw a message from a firefighter in another state. The subject line read, "Your dog saved more than just your family." Lisa's brow furrowed as she opened it. "Dear Miller family, I read about Cooper in the news, and I wanted to reach out personally. I'm a firefighter in Montana, and last week, I was responding to a house fire in a rural area. The family inside had a dog, a golden retriever named Bailey. Bailey woke them up before the fire alarms did. Just like Cooper. Because of him, they got out in time. The father told me that he had read about your story a few weeks ago. After that, he started paying closer attention to his dog's behaviors, especially at night. He told me, if I hadn't read about Cooper, I don't think I would have reacted as fast when Bailey started barking. Your dog's story saved them, too. I thought you should know. Sincerely, Firefighter Mike Dawson. Lisa stared at the email, her heart pounding. "Tom," she called, "you need to see this." Tom read it over her shoulder, then let out a slow exhale. "Cooper's story saved another family," he murmured. Lisa swallowed hard. "And maybe more we don't even know about." Tom turned to where Cooper lay sprawled out in the sunlight, completely oblivious to the lives he had touched. "You've started something, buddy," Tom said softly, stroking his fur. And just like that, Lisa knew. They couldn't stop here. Cooper's story wasn't just theirs anymore. It belonged to everyone who had ever wondered if their dog was trying to tell them something. And now, it was time to make sure the world was listening. Taking the mission national. The Millers had already been working with their local fire department to promote fire safety and pet awareness. But after the email from firefighter Dawson, they knew they had to go bigger. They started partnering with animal shelters, talking about how rescue dogs could become heroes too. They worked with fire departments across the country, sharing their experience and helping to create training programs on how firefighters could better understand pet behavior in emergencies. And then, the biggest opportunity of all arrived. One evening, Lisa got a call from a major pet food company. "We love what you're doing," the representative said. "We want to feature Cooper in a national campaign to raise awareness about how dogs detect danger before humans do." Lisa's eyes widened. A national campaign? Yes. TV spots, social media, educational programs, everything. Lisa turned to Tom, who was listening with equal parts excitement and disbelief. "What do you think?" she asked. Tom glanced at Cooper, who was wagging his tail at the sound of his name. "I think it's time the whole world knew just how special he is." And so, they said yes. Cooper on the big screen. Within weeks, Cooper was suddenly everywhere. Paw prints. He was featured in TV commercials with a tagline that read, "Pushpin dogs see what we can't, trust them." Paw prints. He appeared on magazine covers, with headlines like, "Pushpin, meet the dog who became a hero in the night." Paw prints. He even got his own Instagram account, managed by Jake and Emily, where thousands of people followed his journey. And then came the biggest moment yet. A documentary crew reached out, wanting to do a full feature on dogs like Cooper, the ones who had saved families through their instincts. "We don't just want to tell your story," the director explained. "We want to tell all of them." Lisa's throat tightened. "All of them?" "Yes, because Cooper isn't the only one. Dogs all over the world have done what he did. We want to show people that when dogs bark in the middle of the night, when they refuse to settle, when they act differently, sometimes, it's because they're trying to save us." Lisa knew, without a doubt, that this was exactly what they needed to do. And so, they began traveling, meeting other families who had stories just like theirs. Fire a German Shepherd in Texas who had woken up his family minutes before their house caught fire. Fire a rescue mutt in New York who had barked non-stop until his elderly owner woke up, just in time to escape an electrical fire. Fire, a border collie in California who had pulled a child out of bed before an explosion rocked the house. One by one, the stories painted a bigger picture. Dogs weren't just pets. They were lifesavers. And the world needed to start listening to them. The bigger mission. By the time the documentary was released, millions of people had seen Cooper's story. And then, something amazing happened. Dogface adoption rates at shelters increased. Families started taking in more rescue dogs, realizing that any dog, regardless of breed, could be a hero. Fire safety awareness skyrocketed. More homes installed smoke detectors and pet emergency plans after hearing stories like the Millers. Loudspeaker legislation began to change. Some states started pushing for more pet-friendly emergency shelters, so families wouldn't have to choose between saving themselves and leaving their pets behind. Lisa, Tom, Jake, and Emily watched it all unfold in awe. And every night, as they sat in their home, watching Cooper nap peacefully at their feet, they knew one dog had started a movement, a life that almost never was. One evening, as Lisa sat on the couch, scrolling through messages from people whose lives had been changed by Cooper's story, she stopped on one that made her eyes fill with tears. "I almost gave up my dog because I didn't think I could take care of him anymore. But then I read about Cooper, and I realized my dog isn't just my pet. He's my protector. I'll never take him for granted again." Lisa put her phone down and looked at Cooper, sleeping soundly with his paws twitching in his dreams. She reached out and stroked his fur. "You didn't just save us, buddy," she whispered. "You saved so many others, too." Cooper sighed in his sleep, his tail wagging just slightly, and Lisa knew, deep in her heart, that even though the fire had destroyed their home, it had also built something even stronger. A legacy, a lesson, and a reminder that sometimes the smallest warning, a single bark in the night, can change everything. Part 5. A legacy that lives on. Years passed. The Miller family's life had changed in ways they never imagined. A fire that could have ended everything had instead ignited something greater: awareness, education, and hope. And at the heart of it all was Cooper, a dog who had not only saved his family but had inspired an entire movement. A hero grows older. Cooper's golden fur, once vibrant and sleek, had begun to show touches of gray. His movements, once energetic and full of boundless excitement, had slowed slightly. His steps were softer, his naps longer, but his spirit, unchanged. He still greeted every morning with the same wagging tail, still looked after his family with unwavering loyalty, still met every visitor with gentle eyes that held a story of courage. The years had given him many titles: hero, lifesaver, ambassador, but to Jake and Emily, he would always be their best friend. And to Lisa and Tom, he would forever be the reason they got to wake up each morning. The final mission. As Cooper aged, the Miller family knew their time with him was precious, so they made every moment count. They took him to schools and fire stations, where children listened wide-eyed as firefighters told his story, reminding them to always trust their dogs, to always listen when something felt wrong. They helped launch a nationwide fire safety initiative for pet owners, making sure that families had emergency plans that included their furry companions. And they continued working with shelters, ensuring that more rescue dogs found loving homes, because, as Lisa often said, every dog has the potential to be a hero. They just need someone to believe in them. Cooper's story had changed so many lives, but the biggest impact? It changed how people saw their dogs, not just as pets, but as protectors, family, and silent guardians in the night. The hardest goodbye. One autumn morning, as the leaves turned golden and the air grew crisp, Cooper lay beside the fireplace. His favorite spot. Jake, now a teenager, sat beside him, stroking his fur. "You're tired, aren't you, buddy?" he whispered. Cooper sighed, his tail wagging just slightly. Lisa and Tom watched from across the room, knowing the truth but not wanting to face it. Cooper had given them so many years of love, protection, and devotion, and now it was time for them to let go. That night, as the family sat with him, telling him stories, thanking him for everything, Cooper closed his eyes, peaceful, loved, And knowing that he had done his job, he had saved his family. And in doing so, he had saved so many others. A legacy that never fades. The loss of Cooper was devastating, but his legacy never faded. A year later, the town unveiled a bronze statue in front of the fire station, a tribute to the dog who had saved his family. The plaque read, "Pushpin Cooper, the hero in the night. He saved his family and taught us to listen." Every year, on the anniversary of the fire, the Miller family and local firefighters held a fire safety event in his honor, reminding families to always be prepared and to always trust their dogs. And in homes across the country, families who had once ignored their pets' restless pacing, sudden barking, or anxious warnings now paid closer attention. Because of Cooper's story, they listened. And because they listened, more lives were saved. A new beginning. Years later, as Jake prepared to leave for college, he visited the local animal shelter. He walked past rows of wagging tails and hopeful eyes, each dog waiting for a chance, just like Cooper once had. And then, in the very last kennel, he saw her, a small, scruffy pup with golden fur and the same soulful eyes Cooper once had. She wagged her tail, stepping forward cautiously. Jake knelt down, smiling. "Hey there, girl. You remind me of someone." The pup licked his hand, as if to say, "I'm ready." And just like that, the story began again. Because love, loyalty, and heroism, they never truly end. They just find new beginnings. The end. Dogface Fire Cooper's story may have ended, but his impact lives on in every life he touched. Speech Balloon, what did this story mean to you? Share your thoughts below. Heroes come in all shapes and sizes, including those with wagging tails. Cooper's incredible story reminds us to always trust and appreciate our furry companions. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, and share to honor all the brave dogs out there. And don't forget to subscribe to Dog Discoveries with Florence for more heartwarming and inspiring dog stories.